So Stacy, get in
Okay,
here.
it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call a meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just make a note that Councilman Studnicka is not here tonight. Item number 1 is old business, approval of minutes. The regular meeting minutes of May 16, 2024 were provided for review. So I need a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of 16 May 2024 as presented.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call roll.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Abstain.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? I have to look through the whole crowd real quick. Okay, we're good there. New business, temporary special event application. 10 and 2 Coffee has applied for a temporary special event license for their summer concert series events. The outdoor concert series will take place on 20 June and July 18, 2024. Lindsay Conklin is present to answer any questions. And I don't see her.
She's not here.
She was supposed to be here.
You guys are familiar with that concert series. It'll take place on 2 Thursdays this summer. So
I'm
It always
familiar.
goes on during our meetings.
I was just going to give her an opportunity to say something, but you're not here. So.
Yeah, we tend to plan our meetings around.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the temporary special event license for 10 and 2 Coffee in Lansing as presented.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? We want to move it from Thursday, right? So we can actually attend. Yeah.
I know that these are very popular. The only thing I would like to see is more of them, but no other comment.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm sure they have a spike in revenue, which helps tax revenue for the city, too.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. Call roll.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item number 3 is community survey. Community surveys can be helpful to gauge priorities and help give staff and elected officials a pulse of the community. This can be helpful in establishing future projects and help identify any blind spots and ways we can improve services to our residents. Representatives from True North Market Insights will be present tonight. I suppose they're sitting in front of us here. So if you have any questions about the survey, if
I
one of
do.
you, okay, sure. Will one of you come up?
Well, I think they might have a.
We have about a 10-minute presentation.
Well, do that.
Is that all right?
Yes,
Perfect.
please.
We're happy to answer any questions.
It didn't mention a brief, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dave Santee. I'm a resident of Lawrence, Kansas. I'm the president and founder of True North Market Insights. We're a market research firm that truly serves the biggest, most sophisticated companies in the country. Charles Schwab, we're just beginning to work with Charles Schwab Domestic, from Kraft,
State of Oregon.
Evergy. Some of the biggest financial business firms, technology firms that touch your lives that you probably never heard of. The reason I say this is, so how does a company from Lawrence, Kansas get to work with those guys where, they're working with the best research firms? And honestly, the reason is you have to be better than the best. And so the way we do that, to work with those guys, you have to be on top of your game. You have to have the methods, you have the techniques, you have the analytics, you've got the quality control, you've got all that. But what makes us different is, first, we always sit down with our clients to understand, okay, what's really going on? What decisions do you have? What are your challenges? Where do you need to go? What decisions are coming up? And then when we do the study, we sit down with the clients. Now, this is what it means. This is where we need to go. This is maybe how you use it. When most companies will hand you a research deck. I love my clients. Oh, Kraft. I was going to mention Kraft. I love Kraft to sell more mac and cheese. Everyone loves mac and cheese. What I love more, though, is my community, where I live, where my family lives, where my grandkids live. So I want to help our community. I want to help my community. I want to use my company and the skill sets to help our communities. I ran across Rachel about 5 years ago, and we found we had the same sort of desire and passion to do this. And Rachel's is far past me on her experience with it. She's conducted over 100 community studies, has the education for it, and by the way, is probably one of the smartest people you'll ever be around. So just warning you if we work together.
Where'd you graduate from, Rachel?
KU.
Case closed.
So
And there it is, folks.
And there it is.
that's all that matters. Can we go home? Can we go home now? But we want to work together, and so we started. We got Rachel's now our director of community insights. We're trying to bring this firm over here that works with these top companies, top analytics, but with that consultative approach, and bring it over here to communities. Now, companies over here don't understand communities. Companies that serve communities don't have these kinds of skill sets all the time. So what we're trying to do is build this organization, again, led by Rachel, because she's done 100 of these, so that we can serve communities. But again, not just to say, here's a boilerplate questionnaire, but let's understand where you're going, where the issues are, what needs to be done, what bond measures are coming up, what challenges do you have, and then when the data, and we'll build a study for that, and then when we get the data, it's all about now, this is how you use it, this is what it means, we can look at it this way if we need to, and this is where we may go with it instead of just turning over a deck of numbers. So that's True North, that's sort of our goal, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel.
First, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight and present to you about working with you and collaborating on a potential community survey. I also want to extend my deep appreciation for this community. Me and my family moved here a little over 3 years ago, and so we just live about 7 minutes down the road. My kids participate in Parks and Recreation sport. We go to the local events, and I truly appreciate what this community has to offer for us. As Dave mentioned, my background is in community engagement, and one of my passions is involving the community within that decision-making process. And it's important to me to make sure that everybody's voice is heard and is able to be a part of that. And I firmly believe that community engagement is the foundation to healthy communities and informed decision-making. And while many community surveys may use the same standard questionnaire, we start with a conversation, as Dave mentioned, or 2 or 3. The point is we want to understand the issues you guys have and are facing and the challenges that you guys have in front of you. After all, our community isn't exactly like Lawrence or Merriam. No, our community is unique. Lansing has its own strengths, challenges, areas of opportunity, and brand identity. Additionally, many community surveys rely heavily on just satisfaction. However, we know that better metrics exist. After all, do we want our residents to be merely satisfied with our community? Or do we want them to genuinely love our community as much as we do? At True North, we look at satisfaction through a framework, understanding that the city of Lansing offers more than just functional benefits to the residents. We recognize that when residents think about Lansing, that encompasses many things, including the brand image or reputation, who you are as a city. Your functional benefits are what you provide, such as the programs, services, or facilities. Also, the interpersonal interactions, how we relate to the community, such as ease of working with you, the responsiveness to request. And together, these things produce emotional benefits to our residents. And these emotional benefits help residents to feel secure within their city, supported by their city, and provide a higher quality life for our families. One of the metrics True North uses is the Net Promoter Score, the NPS for short, which is how likely you would be to recommend an organization or a service. A highly credible market research firm, Bain & Company, discovered the predictive metrics, the predictive capabilities of NPS around 20 years ago, of understanding future behavior. Many organizations, such as utility companies, Evergy for one, uses this. National and global firms use NPS to predict loyalty and future behavior of the clients that they serve.
What do you mean by future behavior?
So, for instance, if, like we use it a lot, Dave might be better at answering this, but if we're asking them, I guess in city terms, if we were having them look at like a bond measure or message or something, and we wanted to know how they were going to vote, or if they would pay increased property taxes, or if they would buy that specific product or participate in that program, you can do a correlation by NPS and that and understand the actual likelihood of them doing that behavior. So participating in your park programs, going to your events, things of those nature.
Thank you.
So a lot of these firms, as I mentioned, are using NPS for this predictive method, and for good reason. NPS is actually 2.7 times more predictive than satisfaction. So 2.7 times more predictive than satisfaction. But we know our communities are mainly still heavily reliant on satisfaction, missing out on many important drivers. To highlight some expertise within our team, I'd like to mention that Dave has won several awards, but one in which was really prestigious. He's been named the most innovative market research in the world for some of his work and methodologies he's done within the private sector. His approaches are at the cutting edge of market research, and they've proven to yield actionable and predictive insights that have a proven track record for good decision making and positive outcomes. Community Insights aims to equip our city leaders with these advanced tools. We can gain valuable insights into resident priorities by conducting a comprehensive community survey, tailored specifically to Lansing's needs, priorities, brand identity. This will help us understand resident support for future projects, services, potential policies they would support. Involving the community through these advanced metrics allows us to move beyond simply satisfaction. We can engage with our residents deeper, understanding their true feelings and priorities. This in turn empowers you, our city leaders, to make decisions that resonate deeply within our community. It would be a great privilege for me to serve my community in this way. By leveraging these insights, we can ensure that Lansing continues to be a place where people not only live, but they thrive, where they feel deeply connected and proud of their community. Thanks for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, we do surveys. We have had workshops. Some of you guys have been on the council through the rough times and now into the more better times. What would this do that we haven't experienced, or what kind of information can you gather that they don't already have?
Well, I'd first ask, have you guys conducted a statistically valid survey, or has it just been an open survey out to the public?
That's always been my issue, is when we get surveys, just is it statistically
Accurate.
So if they're just presented or out, like you put them out on the board or throw them out to the community, they're not going to be statistically accurate. I've done a lot of studies where I'll do a non-statistical component along with the statistical component of the survey, so we'll allow whoever in the community to take it. And sometimes there's some similarities, but many times there are differences that exist, and so you miss out on some of the closeness. You don't get as close to the reality of what's going on if you don't do a statistical survey. So the statistical survey can be more accurate in predicting really how your residents are feeling toward a particular service, upcoming project, or program that you might want to implement in the future. And also, as city leaders, you guys may have a pretty good idea, especially I know Shockey, you guys work with Shockey Sheethamson, and you guys have a good idea of how your citizens are understanding and how they are. But there's also some things that we might not fully understand because we are still sitting in this place. Dave, did you have anything else you wanted to say about that?
Separate from the statistical side is the decision-making side of what challenges do you have now that you didn't have then? Or what's different, or what decisions do you have coming? So it's always forward-looking. What do you have in front of you that you're trying to accomplish, trying to do, you have limited resources, where do you put them? And so I don't know to the extent that that's different than your previous study, but that would be one of those answers of let's identify those questions. So you know what, a standard way of doing community surveys is take literally a boilerplate questionnaire and let's put it out there. We don't like that. We always start with what's going on. What do you need? What are your challenges? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the next this? What's the next that? Or do you feel there's blind spots that you'd like to get better clarity on? And that's when we develop the right tool and the instrument to answer those questions. Part two of... I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand this. So you're going to ask questions and then develop a survey?
Absolutely.
Ask questions
so
of
that's
you
like-
guys and
Okay.
the stakeholder groups,
Stakeholders, the city
just to
management.
understand really what's going on, the theories of what's going on, where you guys believe your strengths are. And some of this might be just through past research, that we can already kind of have some of those ideas gathered before developing a quantitative survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when the survey's put together and distributed, what kind of return are you hoping, percent?
So we would make the survey available to every household.
Sure.
And response rates, I'm not gonna lie, they're tough. They're tough to get. And so it depends how well you guys yourselves market the survey as City of Lansing, letting them know it's upcoming. We've seen that increase response rates. We will brand, of course, the survey. Everything will be branded the City of Lansing. Even throughout the survey, they'll see City of Lansing. We've had such bad response rates in our different sectors. I mean, everybody's facing it. I've had to go in and develop and redevelop plans to increase response rates, and we've gotten much better at it. It's even from how they first see the email. It's from making it short, sweet, to the point, things of that nature. So we have all these tools in our toolbox to increase it. Hopefully 10% with a second reminder. We've been able to identify over 3,000 emails. That also helps. So we'll send a postcard, we'll send a reminder postcard, we'll send emails just reminding those residents who haven't filled it out. In addition to your guys' marketing of it as well, we'll increase that response rate.
You hit on an important topic because that's a moving target. You figure you have it, and then market change, people change their behavior, and then it's different. And so staying up on that, doing things like people respond, people live on their cell phones now. And so I don't know who's taking paper and pencil questionnaires, but people are living on your cell phones. So we go to where the people are, and that's where they are. We'll build our questionnaires so that it's designed specifically for a smartphone. And so it's easy to take. You'll be standing in line at the coffee shop, and okay, well, I'm here, let me just go through it. And so that's the usability of it. It makes sure it's easy to use. It doesn't look like grids of questions and scales, so it's easy, colorful, easy to use. That's a big component. We do things like send postcards to the homes with the QR code, for example. So it's always a challenge to build that response rate. And again, it's a moving target. It's always changing. What worked this year isn't going to work next year, so we're always needing to stay up with it to make that work.
And I don't mean to belabor this, but do you have a percent in mind that you strive for?
Is there a percentage that would make the analysis?
10, 15?
Is there a, is it 20%
Well, it's
makes
the
it?
number of surveys is really what it comes to, the number that we get back.
Number of completes is what matters. So statistically, if everybody had the same opinion, you'd only need to ask one person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the more different people are in your community, the more people you need to ask. So the right number of surveys you get really isn't related to your outgoing or percent coming back. It has to do with the number of people that responded. And then what we also do is we look at the distribution of those respondent by all demographics and to make sure the distribution is, what it should be. And then if it's not analytically, we can do some things to like give this kind of household a little bit more weight or that one a little bit less weight, so we can make sure that distribution is just spot on to your demographics. So those things are really much more important to to the quality of the data, the distribution, and the total number coming in than the response rate.
And I think to get to numbers, ideally I'd like to get 300 back. Isn't it, 254 is really, there's a
There is sort
statistical
of a magic
reason for
statistical reason,
254.
Yes.
So,
If you want to go to statistics, we'll have to explain that. But
so
there is
we
sort of
need
a
at
magic-
least that to have a really valid, good, comparable sample.
But
Which
you
I
guys
think we shouldn't
don't
have a
give,
problem
you don't
with.
give up until you've really got that, right?
Yeah, and so we've done so many of these, even in the private sector. I've really had to come up with some good tools. So down to how we shape the email, how we mark it originally, and we'll give you guys the tools to do that, of course. In addition to you send them the first initial email, you send them an email the next week, and then you wait a couple of weeks, and then you push it again, and your response rate jumps up. So there's little things
Okay.
like that we've learned over time that we will, of course, implement and try to get you guys a really good response rate. Of course, my goal is 300, but if we can get more, we'll get more, and it depends when you guys would like the survey results back.
Okay.
What's a good time for the survey, typically for a community, as far as within the year?
Well,
I mean-
definitely not around,
Election day?
yeah, not election day.
Yeah, I
Even
mean, right
coming
now
up
I'm
to
getting,
election day.
20 flyers from every
Yeah.
candidate. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the survey may get lost in the shuffle. So that's why I'm curious.
I think, right, as long as we don't, I think it's going to get worse, of course, the further we go into the year. But we still have some time before then, and if we can do this, say July through September, a 3-month period for the whole process, I don't think we should have a huge issue. We might see a little bit of a response decline closer toward the election period, but I still think that we're going to be able to get the amount we need.
Again, a key part is branding it is
Yeah.
your city survey. And, residents want to support your city and give their, people love giving their point of view, right?
Well, and-
Good or
and-
bad, so that's what we have going for us.
Well, and with the email too, a lot of people think other emails we do for our private sector, because we don't get to brand those all the time, that they're spam. Like some people will do incentives, and we tried to give somebody $500 from Evergy the other day, and they were like, "This is spam." I'm like, "Oh."
Just click on the link
Sorry.
as a pathway to a $500 gift card.
But
Not
they'll
for spam.
recognize the Lansing logo. They'll recognize this is from their community. They'll recognize that.
Rachel, I have one question.
Sorry.
Can you give an example of a survey that your company conducted where you had an expected outcome and what that outcome was without providing any community information, and also an unexpected outcome? Like, when you did the survey, what information did you gain from the survey that you could share with us to show how it would be we would benefit?
So there was one survey I did for a county, and it had to do specifically with Parks and Recreation. I've worked a lot with Parks and Recreation. That's kind of where really my passion lies within the cities, is parks and outdoor spaces. And so we were able to help this community in Montgomery County, and we were able to help get them to realize what ball fields they needed, athletic facilities, and through the survey, we were able to get some funding supported through those numbers from the residents. They would support it. They would pay the user fees. And so they were able to have a really great capital planning initiative off of that. So that was a good expected outcome. Same project, because I do every aspect of the project. I kind of like to get into the nitty gritty because it helps me understand it better. Same project. There were so many different types of athletic fields they wanted. Some of them got a little drained out. So almost like, the lacrosse fields or whatever that maybe only a certain amount of people wanted, their voices maybe didn't get heard as much because we had such a small sample with those specific groups when, in hindsight, I probably would have waited a little bit more so they could have their fields too.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Use Lansing as a case study.
That's the goal, because we've gone after a couple of these this last year as we've started to get into it, and a lot of them want to,
Communities, you mean?
yeah, smaller communities, just to get back into community research. That's really where my heart is. That's where I spent several years, and they want to see 3 case studies. So right now, that's what we're trying to do, and I thought, what better way than to work with my very community?
And you're gonna use phones?
Um,
Postcards?
so we're going to do postcards, but we're going to direct everybody online. People will answer a survey differently on the phone versus on paper and pencil versus online, and there's no real way to combine them effectively, even though many research surveys do it. It's not the best way to do it because they will answer differently. So we try to direct them all to one mode, which is online. If there is, say, an older resident that doesn't feel comfortable taking it online, we can, of course, provide them a paper and pencil copy so they can still feel like they're able to participate. But generally, and then we'll look at the differences, but generally, we push everybody online. So the QR code, they'll click on it, they'll take it on their cell phones, or they're going to email, take it on their desktop, however they want to do it.
See, that's
Well, we just ran
a
into.
survey for a micro-transit system. And we realized, kind of late into, we were missing a core group, which was the people at the nursing homes, assisted living. And so we were able to take hard copies and have them do that. But,
Good.
you know, you talk to the people that run the place, there are very, very few computers. And a lot of them may have a smartphone, but all they want to do is make calls. So, you know, we need to.
So you're hitting an important issue. One thing we don't do is a one-size-fits-all. We don't do boilerplate. We don't do one-size-fits-all. And different communities are going to have different issues. So absolutely, if there's situations like that and we need the paper and pencil, we'll absolutely do it. We're equipped for it. You know, I'm old enough to know I've done, you know, back in the day, that's all we had. So we know how to do them. So it's again, that's part of that conversation with you, that upfront conversation. We're not going to come in and say, this is the way you got to do it. It all depends on your situation, your need, your residence, and at the end of the day, even if the data is completely right over here, you guys have to like it and trust it and be confident in it. And I've learned through, at least even on the for-profit side, that sometimes we do some things just to make sure people are confident in the results because they're going forward and making decisions on it.
Anybody else?
Surveys can lead to results that individuals wanting the survey didn't get the answers they wanted.
Well, you guys might not get the answers
You
you
know what I'm
want
saying? It's
either.
like-
That's why I'm kind of curious to see if.
We thought we were going down this road, but the survey results unanimously came back this way, which was
I
an
think
alternate
that's-
course of action.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic that we figure this out ahead of time, so, yeah.
Yeah, one other thing, let me throw, deciding where to go, obviously that's what it's all about. And you know, if you get the results back, where do you decide to put your money? Is it on the lower scoring items? But what if the lower scoring items aren't important? Then what? And so we follow the same process we do with our for-profit. The one way to do this is to ask clients, ask customers, you know, what do you want? But I tell you, that is riddled with problems. Respondents don't always tell them. They'll tell you what they want to tell you. They may not tell you what their real decision process is. So analytically, we back into it. Analytically, there's a way to identify what are the key, of all these things we're measuring, what are those key things what are those key things that lead most to a satisfied resident or a thrilled resident or a resident that wants to talk about, you know, what are those things that most lead to that? And it may not be, most of the time it's not what they say it'll be. And I can give you some really fun examples about how we can see those differences between either healthcare and even what kids want or what parents want in a fast food restaurant. It's not the same. In fact, parents will say, I want the fast food restaurant for my kids that has the apple slices and the healthy stuff. But when you do the modeling, no, it's what the kids want, it's to make them happy, it's to keep them quiet, it's to keep, you know. So I'd be glad to go into it, but there's analytical things that help us identify what truly is most important. And then we can look at now, how do you score on these things that are truly more important? And that's what guides to your decisions.
I just like basing things on real data.
Do you
And I
all,
like real data.
so do you all,
Yes.
do you all use artificial intelligence when you're doing some of these statistical data research?
We're exploring.
You're using some
it's
AI?
new. It's new. I tell you, what she did recently, we had this this challenge where it was a really, really difficult client, not a wonderful client, difficult to get the responses. She went out and through AI came out and reworded the invitation. All of a sudden, jump. So we're exploring where to use it. A lot of times we get open-ended comments, and so we're using that language technology to understand and sort through
It's
and
an
filter
art.
through and categorize. So we're
But it's also a challenge because we're finding AI bots are getting into our surveys. Even with the ones with screeners that we think are completely pinned down, that we have a good sample, people from other countries, even if we have an incentive, are using AI bots to come in and infiltrate our surveys that we have going on nationally. So it's a challenge, and we're trying to figure out how to use it in a positive way to increase response rates and, you know, how to communicate, our communications, you know, on most of my emails, I'm going to ChatGPT now because I want to make sure that I'm really accurately saying what I want to say. But yeah, it's a challenge though, because there's a lot of issues with it, but we're finding them, and we actually just wrote a paper on the issues with AI bots and how you need to really keep your surveys secure.
You know, on that, I will say many community surveys we have seen have, in the for-profit world, you always start a survey with what we call the screener, and ask questions to make sure you're talking to the right person. And I'm sort of amazed at how many community surveys don't have that.
Well, we know 14% of residents move every year. So that's a major issue going on, that you may have old residents. I know time and time that it's happened, where a resident who moved out of a community a year or two ago is still getting the same community survey from that community. So that's something that we see as a challenge that we have a solution for.
So there's multiple QC processes and things that we bring to bear on it that go way beyond what we talked about.
Sounds like we're concerned about the response, getting a response. Is there any way that the board could incentivize? You mentioned incentives to get people to do it, $50 gift cards or whatever.
Yeah,
But is there something that the board could do to incentivize the response?
You know, one thing
I don't
that
know.
we have found, just real quick, I'm sorry, is because we do incentives like, $10, $50, $100, depending on what type of project.
Or a
We
drawing.
but we have found through our research that a drawing for, you know, you have the pool coming up next year. Give away a family pool pass to the pool next year. Offer that to them, so then they're getting more involved in the community. You don't have really much going out, and it gives them an incentive. It gets them more involved. So something like that, we actually get higher response rate than giving everybody money, and it's less likely a bot will try to enter into your survey because they don't need the $10. So
Well, the
I
bot
would
doesn't know what it is.
recommend giving away something, or even a few items like a family pool pass, something of that nature, to where it's actually incentivizing your residents to participate more in your community.
Yeah, I like that. Anybody else?
That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much
Good luck
for
to
your
work with you.
time.
Thanks for picking our community to live in.
Yeah, I know. I just came from Piper, and I'm like, whew, what a breath of fresh air.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I'll be
your
in
time.
contact
Thank
with you
Thanks,
guys
Dave.
then, so thank you
Like
guys.
that, I got friends in Piper.
Oh, Piper's great, but you guys are clear.
Employees in Piper, too.
Oh.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Rachel.
you.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate
Thank you, Rock Chop.
All right, there was no action. That was just for information for the governing body. So item number 4 is Resolution B7, 2024, a resolution authorizing the offering and sale of general obligation bonds of the city of Lansing, Kansas. Bond Counsel Gilmore and Bell has prepared Resolution B7, 2024, authorizing the offering for sale of general obligation bonds. These bonds will permanently finance a portion of the 2020-1 temporary note funds that were used to purchase the land in Town Center. So I need a motion to adopt Resolution B7, 2024, a resolution authorizing the offering for sale of general obligation bonds of the city of Lansing, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this one? Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 5 is design criteria and technical specification updates Following modification and updates to the City of Lansing technical specifications are listed below. Design criteria for sanitary sewers and what is it?
Pertinences.
Appurtenances. Yeah, I use that a lot in normal daily language. So, Section B. All sewers are to be designed for anticipated flows from a 10-year interval storm. This is a reduction from the 50-year storm to better reflect the current modeling and I&I projections. The intent is to provide more economical sanitary sewer infrastructure that both addresses the anticipated flows without the need to overbuild for stormwater infiltration. Technical specifications section 1700, construction recording. This is a proposed addition to the technical specifications to direct construction work to provide video photographic documentation of the conditions both pre and post construction. This mechanism will provide information in an effort to protect both parties in situations where there are discrepancies as to the site conditions. The action I need is a motion to revise the sanitary sewer design criteria from a 50-year to a 10-year interval storm and add section 1700 construction recording to the City of Lansing's technical specifications.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
We're not
Mike's here
losing,
to answer some questions.
we're not losing any efficiency by going through a smaller pipe.
No, this was, actually what we're doing is we're building more what we need as opposed to overbuilding. It's more in line with the
As
industry
opposed to
standard.
overdoing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item number 6 is firewall purchase. City's firewalls have reached the end of the life and need to be replaced. The city's IT department is requesting the approval of the replacement of our current sonic wall firewalls with the industrial standard Cisco Meraki firewall devices. $30,000 was programmed in the 2024 budget for computer hardware. The cost estimate for the hardware and licenses is $17,832.42. So I need a motion to authorize the Community and Economic Development Department to spend up to $18,000 to purchase firewall hardware and licenses for the city's network from Rhino Networks.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions for Josh?
This is a hardware, not a software.
A little bit of both, but hardware and then the licenses to run the
And
hardware.
will virus protection be part of that too? Or?
Not in this purchase, no.
Okay.
Not the purpose of firewalls.
You're going to have an annual maintenance fee that's required on this piece?
We're actually purchasing 3-year licenses for this in addition. So in this cost, which is actually significantly less than the $17,000 we thought it was going to be, thankfully, there's a 3-year license for each and every firewall that we're going to be installing. So,
How much of the bandwidth are we going to use right off the top?
again, not really applicable for firewalls. So that I can't answer that question, but also not exactly what those are for. So firewalls are just a layer of protection. Somebody, I can't remember who, described them as as deadbolts on your door, right? It's just another layer of protection, but instead of being on your personal computer, it's at the network level, which protects the PCs more.
Yeah. But somebody's got to
Appropriately.
unlock the door to let people in. Everything-
There is taking a metaphor too far, and I think that might be taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
I don't know, making it walk on all fours. So,
Back it up.
All right, any other questions for Josh? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll. Thanks, Josh.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Reports. Any department heads, besides ones we've already heard from? No. City attorney.
Off topic, but I have taken those surveys because I get those in Lawrence from that same company. I just noticed their emblem and I recognized it. So yes, I have taken those surveys,
Okay.
but nothing to report, legal matter.
Was it online?
Yes, it was. I think they got my email because I've had to reach out to, let's say, the trees or whatever, and then they somehow capture your email. So I think that's how they got it. and then they sent it to me. So.
You were reaching out to the trees?
No, they're city trees and they on my property, so they need to come out and cut them.
All right, we won't go down that road. City Administrator Tim, what do you got?
Yeah, speaking of surveys, so we got all of the data back from the SurveyMonkey survey, and then we also received 53 surveys from the residents at Twin Oaks. So if you can get that started.
That's what you want, right?
Yeah, if you want to go to the next slide, yeah.
Bottom right corner, we'll start.
All right. So 331 total responses, 278 digital, 53 paper. So the paper ones I had to compile by hand. But so one of the things I think I had mentioned to a couple of you guys, we were kind of split back and forth internally a little bit because we wanted to get the word out as much as we could. And then some neighboring communities shared it on their Facebook page, and we were kind of torn on that because we certainly wanted to get the word out, but we didn't want it to be overrun by people from a different community. So, but 81.5% of the respondents were from Lansing. So, next one. Age. So some of these, it was kind of interesting looking at the SurveyMonkey results versus the results from Twin Oaks. This is one of those questions where the Twin Oaks respondents did kind of skew it. Thank you. Did kind of skew it slightly. If it would have only been the digital survey, I think that 65 and up figure would have been a little bit less. But it was skewed slightly with those Twin Oaks ones. So.
Does this include the non-residents as well?
Yep. So this includes all of them. So, 60 of these people somewhere in here don't live in Lansing. Because that was the thing that was challenging. Those people who clicked no on that first question, they continued on with the survey. So. Do you own a vehicle? 268 respondents said yes, 61 said no. So again, of the 61 who said no, 30 of them were residents of Twin Oaks. So the vast majority of our residents own a vehicle. This is sort of where it gets a little bit more interesting. So if yes, so that's back to this question. If yes, if you own a vehicle, would you consider using microtransit instead of the vehicle? I thought this was a pretty interesting response, 62.9, 20.8% said no, 16.2% were maybes. So again, this is another one. Twin Oaks was a fair amount more overwhelming than the city at large, and that probably raised it up slightly. But I thought that was a pretty interesting response because, again, in theory, these are all people who own vehicles. Would you be interested in using microtransit as an alternative to traditional public transportation? So again, I thought this was pretty resounding to me. So if you do definitely interested and somewhat interested, you got 74% there. 11% were neutral, and about 14% were not interested at all. Not interested or not interested at all.
What is the alternative?
I think what it was referring to is like regular transportation, like big buses and things like that, I think is what we were going for with that question.
I know, but
Uber.
I mean, you'd be interested since none of those exist here. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
we don't have public. There is no public transportation.
Taxi Service Council,
Yeah,
and it
that's
does
about
a
it.
limited amount of transportation.
I mean, you could Uber, I guess you could call that public.
The issue with Council on Aging is sometimes it takes you 2 weeks. They close early. Yeah.
I have a funny story about Uber that was in the comments too. So, what factors would influence your decision to use microtransit? And so this one is select all that apply. So people could select more. So Convenience and affordability were the top two. Accessibility, so proximity to pick up and drop off points, that was also very important to people. People cared a little bit about safety, not quite as much about the environment. And then there was the other, so these were some of the comments that people included as far as what would influence them to utilize microtransit. So, some people wrote the weather, implying, if there's a blizzard, they might not want to be driving around, but they might feel comfortable taking a van or something like that. One of the respondents talked about exchange students. I'm assuming that means when people are exchange students in Lansing or Leavenworth, they can't have driver's licenses. So I'm assuming that's what it means. No sidewalks. Obviously, that's something we've spoken about. Senior citizens, non-driving teens, things like that. So question 7. So this one, we received hundreds and hundreds of written out comments. I did try to filter them down a little bit, but generally Walmart was listed a lot. Dillon's was listed a lot. Doctor's appointments and things like that were listed. Church, exactly. Those were kind of the things that were listed by far the most. I was going to say I did print them off. If you guys want to look them over, they're about 7 pages. So I do have those, but I mean, it'd be like 7 different PowerPoint slides just for the written comments because this wasn't a standardized question. So, and then anything else you'd like to share or suggest regarding the potential implementation of microtransit in our city? So again, the answers varied greatly. There were some people who talked about how right now they really wouldn't use it, but they kind of acknowledged that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, they probably would have to. So comments like that. There were also some concerns that were listed in there. The biggest concerns were the cost to the rider, and then obviously taxes are always a hot topic this time of year, so there were a lot of people that said, I wouldn't like this if it raised my taxes, was a theme that kind of came up several times. So regarding the question or some comment somebody had about Uber, one of the respondents commented, I think on this one, it'd be cheaper for the city to give all of the residents Uber credits rather than do a microtransit. I'm not sure. I got a chuckle out of that. I'm not sure that's
funny, but
yeah, it's funny. I'm not sure that's legit, but I thought that was kind of an interesting comment that somebody.
But
no.
Yeah.
That, and if you can fund it.
Yeah. But that was it. And, the way we structured this, we tried to keep it short and sweet, so it's not, this super long survey. We wanted to keep it short, so to kind of keep people's interest. And I was going to say, too, and I think Councilman Kirby kind of took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, this was kind of our example. What we were talking about, I'm not sure it's statistically valid because some of the respondents didn't live in Lansing. However, I thought this number was pretty interesting. The definitely interested and somewhat interested, that amounts to 74% of people.
Can we
So
include
if the
some of the-
survey said they didn't live in Lansing, didn't you just negate that one there?
If it was on SurveyMonkey, I couldn't.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we include some of the microtransit stuff in the community survey that we may be doing here in the future?
Yeah, they could ask
We
that
might
question.
get a better, I don't know, maybe a better response.
Mhm.
Oh, I think we had a pretty clear response.
Well, we
On
can.
which one, the final ones? So the last 2 concerns, let's look at those real quick, because I don't think those are clear enough, in my view.
So
It's like, hey, they want it, but they don't want to pay for it. That's what that says. It's like,
can you pull up the? I think it's let's
Question
see, question 8. Pull up question 8.
cost to the rider and overall cost to the city. I mean,
Well, and that's me summarizing. So again, when Ken pulls up the Word document, you're going to see. Is there a way to zoom that in?
And down at the Bottom right, Ken.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should scroll down a little bit.
Okay.
But these are all of the comments. Again, I can forward these to you guys if you want. It's timestamped, so I mean you can see it's a specific person who's filling that out. Why don't you scroll down a little bit more, Ken?
Go
So
back, I want to see that question right above there. Oh, right there, hold on.
this would be a life-changing.
No, I was looking at the tax one.
Well, again, like I said, that's the people who didn't like the idea. That seemed to be the concern. So.
But nothing is free.
That's true, and I think the way Leavenworth does it, people pay $2 per ride, and then we're
$2 out, $2 back.
Yeah.
Which is $4 a day.
Yeah.
You can do it 5 days a week. That's $20.
Yeah.
You're not going to own, operate, insure a car for $20 a week.
No way.
Yeah.
And there are people. I mean, we talk to people at Twin Oaks. There are some people there that have a car, and the only reason they keep it is because it's still convenient. It's not that they want it; they're not comfortable driving, but it's the easiest way for them to get around. There's a lot of people, you know, like my father-in-law was one, 88 years old. There wasn't any point in having a conversation with him to give us the keys to your car.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to happen. We had to make some other side deals with him.
Yeah.
But yes, you're going to find that. You know, those people lived through the Depression and World War II, and they're independent people. They don't want to feel like they're putting out on anybody.
Yeah. Well,
So
walking on K7 is a terrible experience. It's a highway, okay?
Yeah. So again, this is anybody who took it could have written that.
Right. Yeah.
So we're getting all different kinds of perspectives
they
there.
could have fixed
So
everybody if you answered, "Do you live in Lansing?" No, then they would just
yeah, I know, and
cut you off.
then they kept going. So
When they answered these questions, did they ask their age?
no, the age was toward the beginning. Yeah. But anyway, if you'd like this one, and then the question that asks them specifically where they would use it for, because those were the questions that were written out. I can forward those to you guys so you can see the data on that. But I did want to brief you on that just so you guys are aware of it. And I guess where we go from here, chew on it, and you know we'll do what the council wants to do and go
I
from
think
there.
this is one of those things where the louder voice is the opposition, because the people that are on the positive side, they're like, oh, I don't need to say anything because it'll pass. They automatically assume that they don't need to put their voice out there. That makes sense?
Yeah, I understand
I
what
mean,
you're saying. Yeah.
I don't think
way
this
to-
would
the way to negate-
raise taxes. I think there's a way to fund this without it affecting our taxes.
And there potentially could be, yeah. If $30,000 is that figure, you know, maybe there's something we could shift around or something.
I certainly feel that I look at it as honoring our senior citizens.
Yeah.
And if it's a need and they'll use it, I certainly don't want them walking across Eisenhower.
Yeah.
He picked up by Leavenworth LV ride.
Yeah.
That's unsafe.
Yeah, I get that. So. Well, anyway, I just wanted to brief you guys on that, and like I said, I can forward you guys the written out comments, and you can peruse those at your own.
do we need to be talking to Vicky Cos or somebody about Mark and how we could approach him for funding?
Yeah, I can.
We all pay taxes for stuff we don't use.
Yeah, I can follow up with them. So, I mean, initially we had a meeting with the KCATA.
Yeah, whoever it is, I don't know who the appropriate person is. But
Yeah.
Can we?
Yeah, we can keep the lines of communication open, and at some point, I mean, maybe in a couple of months, it would be good to have more definitive direction as we're compiling the budget. You know what I mean? Like tonight, I don't need anything from you guys tonight, but as we're compiling the budget for 2025, at that point, it'd be good to hear more definitive feedback from you guys.
If I remember right, we're probably talking a couple of years down the road anyway.
Yeah, it sounded like they wouldn't have the vans for 9 to 12 months, yeah.
It's 12 to 18 months just to get the van.
Yeah, can you also have Beth look at revenue streams and which ones would be most appropriate? I mean, some that come to mind is like guest use tax. Maybe that pays for it. That way the citizens aren't paying property taxes for it. We're using that from the hotels. I know that's low this year, or probably next, but it might meet the minimum requirement.
Yeah, we could.
Or we can kind of have others fund the transit part.
Yeah.
So, looking at different revenue streams just to kind of figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get
I don't want to lock
well,
on
the majority of the people don't want it, so we're not going to
propaganda.
have it. That's not the point of it.
Yeah.
Like Kerry said, we got on here our citizens, seniors. They're not going to go out to Bernard Park and play ball. They're probably not going to go to the pool.
Yeah.
Well, they like to go to Walmart.
Yeah.
And a church.
Yeah, I do grocery
Yeah,
go-getters.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's one person on the council that doesn't think it's a good idea. I think probably trying to figure out how to fund it without taking out of people's property taxes is the big deal. So that's why I think probably looking at other revenue streams is a good way to go. And if we have to, if we have to, we have to. But I mean, I think we need to look at different funding streams.
Yeah, we can follow up with you guys later this month at the budget work session or later on. So
I can tell you, I was opposed to this in the beginning, but I've swung to the other side. Because I think about our community and how the elderly population has grown. I mean, the Ida Gamble townhomes, and what are the townhomes over here called across the street?
the Reagan Drive
Yeah,
townhomes.
but those are full of elderly people. So
Yep.
we're getting these little pockets of elderly groups in our city that are probably going to need help with transportation.
You can focus this just on nursing homes because you got a lot of elderly that want to stay in their homes.
Yep.
They just absolutely don't want to go to a facility.
It's true.
So we can't, I mean,
And the
it has to be an
services are
all
all
city
in order.
thing.
And with that being said, you know, my mother's an older person who doesn't drive, and she lives in Twin Oaks. And I can go to the store and get whatever she wants. She actually makes me take her debit card and pay for the things. But when she takes public transportation and goes to Walmart and gets her own stuff, it makes her feel a sense of independence.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll follow up with you guys, and I'll talk to Beth, and we'll follow up with KCATA and Leavenworth as well. So. Another thing that's coming up, starting June 17th, we'll be working on that I&I study that Tony Zell mentioned to you guys a while back. So folks in that area east of K7, kind of by LCF, kind of by the activity center, you'll see a lot of folks from GBA. They'll be doing some smoke testing and things like that. So we're working hard to get the word out. Ken Miller did a good job and Tony Zell did a good job. They created a website to inform our citizens about this project. It's lansingks.org/smoke. So that's the website that's specific to this project that will inform our residents about what's going on. So if they see smoke rising up out of the streets or something like that, that will be the background behind it. But we're going to try to get that URL out there, lansingks.org/smoke.
Tim,
So-
could we use, like, some of our traffic signs in the area where the smoke's going to be
Yeah,
expected?
exactly. That's one of the things we're going to do also. I know Mr. Zell met with folks from the school district. He met with Kevin McCarley. He met with Fire Chief Stackhouse. I mean, we're really trying hard to get the word out to folks. And the other thing to remember, too, this is just in that very specific area, kind of by the activity center, kind of by LCF, because those are some of the oldest sewer lines in town. So if there's an issue with storm water infiltrating our sewer system, that's probably the area where it's going to happen. So. But yeah, traffic signs, that's one of the ways where we're going to reach out to folks. So. And then last, I think a few of you guys had reached out to me about the apartments and maybe some questions from residents about the apartments and how they're structured. So definitively, the apartments are not Section 8 apartments. They are privately owned. When people are paying their rents for the apartments, they're paying the rent to Will Hoyt Properties. They're not paying rent to HUD. They're not paying with vouchers or anything like that. This apartment complex, it's a private company. They set their rents. They do have guidelines as far as what they can charge, and they have income guidelines as far as the types of people who can live there. But no way, no how, this is not Section 8 apartments. I know that's one of the rumors that's floating around right now. One of the other things that I thought was sort of interesting, I was able to pull up the rents for the existing Covington Woods apartments. So for most of the 2-bedroom apartments in Covington Woods, a person's paying $975 a month. So that's certainly, I wouldn't call that free housing or a government housing or anything
Or
like
even
that.
cheap.
Yeah, $975 a month isn't chump change, and then the 3-bedroom units are $1,130 a month. So I mean,
I never would have guessed they were that high.
yeah, so that's the existing ones. So I would imagine the newer ones might be slightly higher than that. So
I drove through them the other day, just curiosity.
yeah,
And they haven't turned into the pit holes that a lot of people, I mean, they're keeping them up. Yeah. So I don't see people standing over burn barrels, keeping their hands warm like was predicted at one time. So I wish some neighborhoods were as good a shape as that.
and regarding the income guidelines, a single person making $43,000 a year could live there. I mean, there's city employees, there's school district employees that are at that level. So I mean, it's certainly needed in the community. I think people just get confused with it because there are income guidelines and they got tax credits from the state. So I think that's why people get confused with it. But it is not Section 8. I mean, people
If I
are.
remember right, these apartments were going to have some studio and 1 bedroom, right? I thought.
I don't.
Am I dreaming?
Is it? They're all 2 and.
Yeah, it's 2 and 3.
All 2 and
All 2 and
3s.
3?
Yeah.
I could verify that for you and let you know.
Well, probably right. I just.
So. But anyway, I know a couple of you guys had asked me about that, so I wanted to pass that along just to kind of affirm that apartment complex. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Jim. Kevin, going around the horn.
Went to the Board of Education presentation over at the library. It was very informative, and thank you for whoever hooking me up with that. Let me know what was going on. Tim, when you talk to the True North people, can you ask them or bring up that deal that we got data that we really didn't want for the transit survey, if they have something that can
Oh, yeah.
divert that or catch it before we get it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Gene?
Can't add to what I've already said.
Okay, thanks, Marcus.
Hey, Mike, the curbs look really good. They look really good in Ward 2, doing a lot of curb repair. I don't know about 4-H. I don't get down that way. I bypass it. I do detours, but I'm sure that's looking pretty amazing right now, and we're probably on schedule. I'd just like to echo Carrie's excitement on the micro-transit transportation survey. I think it's a great thing. I really do, and I hope that we go that way. Josh, I appreciate you digging into firewall stuff and firewall protection. You kind of got to add that. Stuff that Tony and I deal with every day, we kind of have those built into our systems, and it's kind of nice, Parks and Rec. Let me just tell you, if you all hadn't had a chance to go out there now that we've had that up and running, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's nice.
There's a lot of ball games going on out there, and the lights coming out of there is late. There's games going on till 9:45, 10 o'clock at night. Cars just pouring out of there. So all my concerns about everybody trying to come out of one lane and you can't get by, well, when you have 9:30, 9:45 at night traffic, it's not a whole lot of traffic jamming up. They're just pouring out of there. So it's working out pretty good right now. Okay, with that comes a point of departure. it's come that time where I must inform all y'all that I have to leave. Not something I want to do. I do not want to do this. I love being on this board. So 11 July will be my last official day that I can actually serve. Building a home does not take 15 to 18 months anymore. Building a home takes about 9 months at the most. You know, I'm really surprised at how far we've come since COVID. So I planned on November, December, and when you have builders and people have supplies and things are in and there's no holding up and you're not ordering and waiting on things, everything got moved up. So I'm letting you all know now that 11 July will be my last day. If it needs to be moved to the left at 30 June, you all let me know. I'm happy to work around
July
that.
11th is good.
So 11 July. I wanted to get through the 4th of July activities and all that kind of fun stuff. So, Mayor, that's all I've got.
All right.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Thanks, Marcus.
Yep.
We'll miss you. Jesse?
Marcus brought down the mood of the day, so I'll just say I've got nothing.
I didn't want to be Debbie Downer here, you know.
I got nothing there.
Just wanted to bring up a comment about the summer concert series. I heard nothing but great things about that. And I just encourage Lansing residents to go out there and enjoy it and have some fun. I want to just mention that leaning forward and moving from a 50-year to a 10-year interval on the sewer system, thank you very much for taking the initiative. I like the way our city doesn't wait for bad things to happen. They're being proactive and making sure bad things don't happen. So thank you. And then the firewall protection, I wanted to talk a little bit about cybersecurity. In my business, you've got to protect your information, and our residents deserve that. So thank you very much for getting that work done, and the board, thank you, board, for approving that. I think it's essential that we protect our information. And Marcus, it's going to be different not having you on the board, so we're going to miss you. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Dan?
I'd like to echo what Mark said about the curb repairs up in Ward 4. They're looking good. Yeah, it's a hassle with parking and jockeying things around, and on trash day makes it real interesting, but we'll get there. Mill and overlays yet to come. So thank you, Josh, on keeping us straight on the IT and Parks and Recs, even though they're not here.
All right, thanks, Dan. Gary, you're last.
You know, on what everybody said, and with that, I move we adjourn.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungart?
Yes.
All right, thanks, everybody. We're adjourned.